So now that we've kind of got an introduction to motivation, let's take our first step into the first category of motivational theories, the need, motive, value theories. Now, of course, the original need, motive, value theory of motivation is Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs. As you can probably have heard in some context or another, that people are motivated to satisfy their needs, but what happens is that their needs are sort of in this pyramid form, that the need to breathe and eat and drink will supersede needs for safety, right? So we satisfy our needs in this pyramid fashion, and so in order to really at the top self-actualize or find our purpose or something like that, find the reason that we exist, we must satisfy all the needs below. Now, this theory is incredibly influential in psychology, but it clearly was not written for the IO field. Okay? So other researchers have taken this essential idea that Maslow has created and modified it for IO psychology. Okay? Aldifer put together a very similar pyramid-like structure, but instead of having these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different levels of needs, he put 3 levels of needs. And he started at the bottom, existence needs. And that is like, I need a paycheck. Relationships, or relatedness needs, rather. And this is like, I need to have a positive environment to work in. That is, colleagues I can handle. And then growth needs, and this is the highest level according, the highest level of Maslow's original model, and that is, I need to find a purpose at work. Okay? Herzberg took Maslow's pyramid and kind of broke it just into 2. And he looked at the different needs, but he called them something different. He called them hygienes and motivators. And hygienes were very similar to the lowest level of needs in Maslow's theory. I need to have, a decent supervisor. I need to have, all right? And so the idea is, if you look at this bottom, if you do not have these hygienes, you will be demotivated. If you have them, you'll be neutral, all right? I have a paycheck. I have a supervisor that doesn't hassle me, okay? Those lead to neutral. But if you move higher up on Maslow's hierarchy and talk about motivators, and those are things that lead to job satisfaction, like employee recognition, work that intrigues me, things of this nature. And so the presence of motivators will lead to motivation, but their absence will be neutral, okay? So we have to have hygienes or we are demotivated. And if we have motivators, we become motivated. But if we don't, then, and instead of motivated in this slide, maybe on this particular slide, job satisfaction might be a better thing. We're going to come back to job satisfaction in great detail in, I don't know, next module, maybe the one after. So, if you do not have hygienes, you will be dissatisfied. If you have motivators, you will be satisfied. I mean, it's really kind of a cool idea. And so some of the hygienes versus motivators here, we can see pay, security, supervisors, work schedules, and motivators are something much more. Do I have independence? Is there a lot of variety in the job? Is it interesting? What kind of control do I have? These things. So if we lay these 3 theories together, we can kind of see with Maslow's pyramid up the middle, we see Aldifer's 3 levels of needs and about where they correspond. And then Herzberg's 2 factors, and you can see where they basically fall. Okay? So there's a lot of controversy surrounding Maslow or any of these needs, values, motives theories. And that is that they're hard to quantify. I mean, what is love needs? What is safety? What are they? Okay? And, Maslow, right from the beginning, he said, look, why are you criticizing me for being non-scientific? I never pretended I was doing science. That was his cop-out. I'm like, I guess. Maybe that's what Freud should have said, right? Oh, don't get me started, Freud. All right. Oops, sorry. There you go. So, an implication coming out of this is this notion of job characteristics theory, and that is that a worker will be motivated, or again, I mean, I use the word motivation, but I can sort of slide in there. A worker will experience job satisfaction, and we'll come back to that, but we're talking motivation today, so we'll say motivation. A worker will be motivated if the job fits them, okay? And so job characteristics theory is that the idea that you can take any job and break it down into its 5 dimensions. Look at this: skill variety, task identity, task significance, autonomy, and feedback. So these are the 5 core dimensions of any job. Okay? When these dimensions are present, then these are the psychological states we will experience. Okay? When we experience these psychological states, these are the outcomes in the far right column. Okay? So you can see here that this entire diagram is moderated by growth need strength. And that is another one of those highly connected to personality theory. So, say, for example, very similar to need for achievement that we talked about in the last video. And so we see that what's going to happen is in this job characteristics theory is we can now do what would be called job enrichment. And that is look at these core job dimensions. Look at these core job dimensions and find ways to enrich the job. Okay? So things like flex time, telecommuting, technology upgrades. Okay? So all kinds of different things can be done. And in fact, look at this. I love this. It's a Panda Express. It was a fortune cookie. What do you want from me? Do not waste. I can't see underneath there. There's a little. You can't see it, but there's something blocking it. Do not take unchallenging occupations. They waste your talents. I think that's what it said under there. I don't know. You'll bust me on it, I'm sure. Okay? So really a neat idea that if you identify these 5 dimensions, you then kind of identify a person's characteristics. And so what you could do in this job enrichment is get the employees involved. Break down the job into its fundamental tasks and see if there's room for negotiation. Because I'm going to come back to a quote that I gave you very beginning, and that was from the German dude whose name has slipped my mind. Anyway, there's no such thing as a bad job. There's bad placement of people into jobs. Okay? And so, given this idea, there are going to be tasks which one employee absolutely hates. Okay? But it turns out that a different employee loves that task. Well, why not identify the worst part of your job and trade it with somebody who has different preferences? Hey, sounds like a win-win to me. Okay? So these ideas are quite interesting that we can enrich a job and negotiate the way that the job is crafted. Okay? Hugo Munster. Too late.